Hmm. Hello, Angel. How are you today?
Good morning, Marita. Good. It's the end of the day for me, morning for you. And
Yes.
yeah, it's been such a beautiful day. It's like the
Hmm.
Indian summer, they call it, the fall season that is early but still very warm. And it's really nice here.
Beautiful. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to talk about a topic that is probably at the heart of everything we've been talking about and everything we will talk about. That is decentering human.
Yeah.
How do we bring the human in the circle with the non-humans, but not in the center of the circle? How the conversation can be between humans and non-humans, and how as teachers, seekers, students, how do we navigate that, because it's so ingrained to automatically center human in our way to see the world, and it's kind of a basis of it. We're human, right? But it's
Yeah.
this path is not about that, and it's not the old way, the indigenous way to see the world, to relate to the world. So why don't you start about this
Yeah.
beautiful, vast topic?
Hmm. I know that we can talk about for the rest of our lives. We've spoken early before, and thank you for the Moonwalkers for this definition of true humility. I'm no greater or lesser than any being. And again, when we're in these conversations, when Angel and I are in these circles, you're on indigenous land. You're speaking to the ancestors, right? We're not coming from a human centric Western version of how we're talking. So even everything that we're saying or the philosophies, we are like, okay, I understand it. The way that we walk and the way that we talk are completely different, right? And so even though you might say, oh, I'm no greater or lesser, okay, then everyone's the same. No one actually matters. And you get into that. But that framework is a colonized framework of lack and of absence and of domination. When we're saying that it's okay to be equal, it's okay. It's because we're coming from that knowing that we don't have to prove our worth and our value because we are creatures of Mother Earth. We belong. And that doesn't mean we're static beings. Doesn't mean that we're perfect. One of the things that the path asks for, everyone has that saying, great power is great responsibility, but yet no one wants to take responsibility. They don't understand what that really means. And to be human is to take the responsibility of being a steward, being one of many. And it's really hard for people to do that because that they think that their spiritual path, they think of the singular path of the human, right? And we forget, that in everything that we're doing, and what I tell my students is when you're approaching these kingdoms, it's not just to know them, but it's for you to be known by them. It is important for that tree that you are having a conversation to know you intimately because it is part of their evolution as well. They're looking at us. They're looking at humans right now, probably wondering what we're going to do. Everyone is. And we are just one part of the consciousness of this planet, just one, and a really small part. And we haven't been around for a really long time. And so the fact that we center, or we live in a Western world that is all about the human, it's kind of madness, really, because we don't really have the wisdom of a culture of connection. And so I love this topic because I think we can go on for millions of years talking about it. But it's the one kind of um, hitch or stepping block that I see that takes people a long time. Like I'm saying, like 20 to 30 years to sometimes even start to understand this, and not even understand from the head, right? From here. This is the journey, right? Head to gut, head to heart, millions of miles. And it's an important one. It's not an easy one, but when people don't look at how different indigenous circles are, really stepping is what I call an alternative reality, then what you're just doing is you're coming in with your culture of I can take, I can have, and it's me, 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 me. It's about me. I enter into circleness, I enter conversations with Angel, not just because I'm trying to learn from Angel, but I know that when Angel speaks, when you speak, Angel, your land, your cedars are speaking, right? Your chickens, the rivers and the streams are there. So when I'm sitting with Angel, I'm sitting with that land. I'm sitting when they go to with their teachers and their teachers and Peru and the heights of the Andes and all of that. So it's not about me. It's about when I'm in communion with a being that might be human, I'm in communion with everything that they're in communion with. Right? And we forget that. We think, oh, here's the person, or here's the teacher, and here's the expert. And I think today, I want to invite everyone that you don't have to know everything to grow, right? And this is an opportunity of leaving what I say, leaving your wisdom at the door, leaving the wisdom of what you think or your expertise of what it is to be human. Because there are other ways, there are other people that are human in different ways. And it doesn't take away from your right to be. What about you, Angel?
Yeah, this conversation has been dear to my heart for many years. And in fact, it has created tension with humans that don't feel that sometimes, yeah, this is my priority. And what I mean by that, it means like not more important than the rest of my other relations. Meaning that, yeah, I have a responsibility of land, of animals, of many things that I need to take care of. And to me, it's as important as maybe, a conversation with you, but not less important. And because there are many of them, and I could include my ancestors and my guides, it requires for me, when I decenter humans, to spend a lot of time in deep listening in silence. In fact, one of my experience of indigenous circles, there's always a lot of silence compared to non-indigenous circle. And my experience of it and my understanding of it, so the teachings and the time I spend in them, is that it's not just about giving space to all the humans in the circle, but it's to be able to listen to what is happening in that circle, meaning the ancestors, the guides, the lands, the trees, the animal, the fire. If we are constantly in conversation, we have a tendency to center it around the human conversation, and silence allows to decenter that. So I feel silence is a big part of it. I think another aspect that for me is really important in Decentering Human is that as we deepen our path and as we study and we're disciplined around study, we start to realize that the wisdom is coming a lot from the non-humans. I mean, even the wisdom of my teacher is coming from the non-humans or the non-physically humans, because it's coming from his ancestors. It's coming from his land. It's coming from his work as a farmer. It's coming from his work as making flower essences and essential oil of trees and plants in the Andes. And in the same way, I say, when he talks, that's really all what is happening there. And so for me, decentering humans is also seeking the human voices that have decentered humans. And very often we look at teachers, okay, this is kind of their point of view, or this is them that are in it. But really, they're often not there. They're often just a vehicle for ancient wisdom. They're passing through thousands of years of rituals, ceremonies, ancestral work that they've done and they received, and their deep, deep connection to land and all that is on the land, and to the cosmos and to the stars. That there are many things when we decenter humans. And it's something we need to be constantly aware that we are going to be taken into the human narrative. I was, really, when I opened my social media this morning, and there was all those posts about the political debates that happened last night between the presidential candidate in the United States, and politics is part of, being human. I'm not saying, that's a problem, but I was like, oh, it is interesting that everybody talks about it. Everybody has an opinion about it, but nobody talks about the wisdom of the trees or as much, or say, hey, there was this amazing conversation. I went in the mountain and this is a conversation I heard between the river and the stars. And somehow we get very reactive. Those posts where there was a lot of comments and reactions, and really this neurosis of the human beings and illness that we carry about being right and being wrong. And the non-human allow us to go beyond that. It's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of being. It's a matter of relationship. The oak tree, when it shared its wisdom, it's not about being right. It's about sharing from its essence. So I feel that when we tap more into that and when we pay attention about what are we paying attention to, and when we start decentering humans and centering inner circle where we sit with my chickens, earlier on I had my daughter in my arms and I just sat for 30 minutes and the chickens were around us, and she was just fascinated looking at the chickens, and we have a huge rooster that's probably as big as her right now. And she was just looking at it. She doesn't talk yet. She makes a little sound. The rooster was making little sounds back. There was kind of this non-verbal conversation of acknowledgement and deep curiosity. I could just see that the curiosity of the animal towards her was the same kind of curiosity she has. She doesn't have filters yet. She doesn't have belief. She doesn't have opinion. She doesn't have even a name for the chicken. It's not already framed into, okay, this is chicken, because when we give names, in many ways, it's from our human consciousness, and words have powers. So when I say chicken, people already imagine something. No, she just see an alive being with consciousness, eye to eye contact, and they have those very fierce eyes, the roosters, and very ancient being. Roosters are, coming from the dinosaur age. They carry amazing wisdom. And I was looking at her because for me, she's my teacher in that moment. How do we come into relation to the non-human world without this self-identity? And it's probably something that is very difficult to resolve, but there is, for me, in the deep listening, in the curiosity, in this beauty, really, of the non-human world, a capacity that we can have for those silent conversation, for true reciprocity in witnessing. I think love for the non-human world, but not the romantic love of movie, but a true love of care and wanting to be in good relation, arise from that. And then I think that can weave the way we walk our lives, what we prioritize, what is important. And the last thing I want to say is that it needs to flow into our healing at some point, because if not, we have a very human-centered way to see our own healing. This pain and this trauma and these things I lived, and my parents did this, I'm a trauma survivor. I experienced trauma in my life. I was physically, sexually abused when I was little, but when I decentered that from my story, that I'm way more than that, and that my healing has nothing to do with just my individual healing, it's a collective responsibility. It can't happen without the healing of the land. It can't happen without the healing of our waters. It can't happen without the healing of our relationship to fire. So then it removes this pressure to make this so important and the center of the narratives. And it opens, us to other possibility of healing. And the Western way of healing, or the Western spiritual way of healing, has become very self-centered in too many ways. And as
Yep.
me, that we sometimes, maybe we're cleaning our chicken coop from all the shit, and we might receive a big message. We might experience a healing there. It might not be around the fire in the certain ceremony. Sometimes we are going to receive it when we are in service of something else, where we're literally, it's not about us. And then the non-humans gift us, stand up and speak and walks through our bodies, walks through our waters, walks through our fire. And I think that's the reason we are sick, because we have centered human for way too long now. And all the narratives, it doesn't matter your political parties or how progressive you are, but very often they are just human centered. It's very rare that we have narratives that goes way beyond that, because even the climate conversation is very around human survival.
Mm-hmm.
Pollution of rivers or water stream, it's very often about humans' relation to water. Can we drink in the river? Can we fish in the river? Can we exploit the river? Can we use it for our own
Yeah.
needs? So it's a long way, but there is true beauty in sitting in a circle and ask opinions from non-humans.
Yeah.
And giving them this voice through the capacity we have to hear those voices.
Yeah. So much here. I'll just make two really brief points. But when we're in these circles and we talk about nature, we're not talking about Disney, right? Disney and all their movies are human-centric versions of deer, right? Of animals, of relationship, right? We try to always explain things, even gods, right? Humans make gods out of things that aren't gods because they want their God to be human, right? They exalt things in that idea. And so you're living in a very narrow possibility. And humans are divisive. It's just part of our nature. We just have to embrace it. It's not about getting away from it. It's just okay, this is a part of how I've been taught. This is how I deal with these things. So then I can consciously make choices. And so even in your example, with the river and, climate being, will humans survive? It's not even all humans. It's a particular kind of human.
Very true. Yeah.
Right. This human, right? So this particular kind of human we think is better than that particular kind of human versus that particular kind of human. So we'll clean up the river if it's near this particular kind of human, not if it's over here. We don't care about that, right? Because they're not really human to us. So, like I tell my students, it's about you, but it's not about you. It's about you, but it's not about you. And a lot of people really struggle with that, especially if they want to lead circles or lead ceremonies. It's not about you. And the moment that you center it and you make it about you, there's no medicine there, because the medicine is the earth and all the beings and their interdependent relationship of reciprocity. So I hope we can continue to walk in a way that allows us to be expansive, expand beyond the human, expand beyond the human-centric way of this constructed reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Marita.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, everyone.